Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Shabbat. We are up to Perek Yud Gimel, Mishnah Vav. Today's Mishnah should be Leilu Nishmat, Neria ben Svetlana Aranbayev, and Eliyahu ben Burcha Israelov, Menuchatam Began Eden, Amen. This Mishnah cites a dispute about two people who performed the melacha of trapping together. The same dispute we quoted earlier in chapter 10, Mishnah 5, in regards to transferring, but the Tosfot Yom Tov writes that our Mishnah repeats it in the context of trapping to introduce the next Mishnah, which deals with other situations where an animal is trapped by two people. So the Mishnah begins, Tzvi shenichnas labayit v'na'al echad befanav hayav. If a deer entered a house by itself without being chased and one person locked the door in front of it to trap it, he is liable. And the Rav says even though he did not chase the animal into the enclosure, locking the door alone is considered trapping it. Na'alu shnaim piturin. But if two people lock the door together, both are exempt because neither performed their entire melacha on his own. And the Mefarshim explain that we learn from the Torah that when two people do a melacha together, neither one is liable. In order to be liable, one person must do the entire melacha himself and not with the partner, as the Gemara says on page 92b in Masechet Shabbat. The Mishnah continues, Lo yachol echad lin'ol v'na'alu shnaim hayavin. However, if one person cannot lock the door by himself, for example, a door is so heavy that closing it securely requires two people, v'na'alu shnaim, and two people locked it together, hayavin, they're both liable because in this case, each is viewed as though he performed their entire melacha on his own. And the Rav explains, since the only way to lock the door in this case is by sharing the task with someone else, it is normal for two people to do it together. And furthermore, each person is regarded as though he did the entire task on his own, since it could have not been done without him. The Rabbi Shimon poter, but Rabbi Shimon exempts them in this case as well, because the reality is that neither did the entire melacha, and the Mefarshim bring down, based off the Gemara Masechet Shabbat, page 93a, Rabbi Shimon learns from the Torah that two people performing melacha together are always exempt, even if the melacha could not have been done except with the participation of both. And the Rav tells us, Ve'en halacha ki Rabbi Shimon, the halacha does not follow Rabbi Shimon. That is in Rabotai Mishnah Vav. Mishnah Zayin now discusses other cases where two people are involved in the melacha of trapping. The Mishnah begins, Yashav ha'echad al petach ve'lo mil'ahu. If a deer was inside a house and one person sat in the doorway but did not block it sufficiently to prevent the deer from escaping, meaning he left the gap wide enough for the deer to pass through, Yashav sheni umil'ahu, and then a second person came and sat next to him in the doorway, blocking it completely, hasheni hayab. The second person is liable because his act of sitting down made it impossible for the animal to escape. The first person, though, was not liable since his act of sitting did not trap the animal. Yashav ha'arishon ala petach umil'ahu. However, if the first person sat in the doorway and did block it sufficiently to prevent the deer from escaping, ubay sheni v'yashav b'tzido, and the second person came and sat down beside him in such a way that his body formed an additional complete barrier against the deer's escape. So the Mefarshim explain the entranceway was a few feet long. The first person sat in the section of the doorway next to the street, fully blocking it, and the second person sat in the section of the doorway closer to the house, also fully blocking it. So it's now as if there are two doors in the entranceway, one in front of the other. Afal pisha mad harishon v'alach lo. The halacha is that even if the first person got up and left, leaving the entrance blocked by only the second person, harishon hayav v'sheni patur. The first person is liable because his act of sitting trapped the animal, but the second person is exempt since the animal was already trapped when he sat down. Now, even though after the first person left, the second person blocked the entire door on his own, he is not liable for trapping the animal, and this is because he simply stayed where he was when the first person left and he didn't perform an action of trapping. The second person is even permitted to sit down in the doorway in the first place, the Rav says, since at that time it was still blocked by the first person, and the Tosfot Yom Tov writes he is also permitted to stay after the first person leaves. Now the Mefarshim do point out, although the word patur, exempt, usually means exempt from biblical liability but forbidden under rabbinic law, here it means exempt and permitted, like we quoted to you from the commentaries. The Mishnah continues, to what can this be compared? The the second person can be compared to a person who locks the door of his house to protect it, and a deer is found trapped inside the house. The case is that a deer was trapped inside a house whose door was closed firmly enough to prevent the deer's escape, but not locked with a key. The owner then locked the door, trapping the deer even more securely than it was before. Before he locked the door, someone might have opened it and the animal might have escaped. Now, the animal was trapped, but it wasn't secure in a sense that somebody could have came and let the animal out. Now, it's even more trapped, it's even more secure because now nobody can come and open it. He is not liable in this case since he did not actually trap the animal, but merely strengthened a trap that was already in effect. The Mishnah's previous case is similar. When the second person sat down, the animal was already trapped by the first person and he did no more than fortify an existing trap. The animal was already trapped by the first person. The second person strengthened the trap that basically his body will just prevent the animal from escaping in the event the first person leaves. Right? Therefore, like the owner who locked this door, this person is not liable, the second person is not liable for trapping the animal when he sits down next to the first person who was already trapping it. And that is in Rabotai today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.